Greetings and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Lokita Maka. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. Please tell your friends to tell their friends that agricultural content is here, natural sciences content is here. Please share the word, subscribe to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So today I'm coming with capital as an agricultural production factor. So this is grade 12 content. So you'll remember the previous video I had uploaded was on labor as an agricultural production factor. So we've got four production factors. We've got land, we've got labor, we've got capital, then we have management. So the next one will be management as an agricultural production factor. So you need to know all these production factors, right? So for your exams. But now I want us to discuss the types of capital. But before we do that, I want us to actually look at the important concepts or important terms that we'll be talking about that we need to know by head so that we can understand. Firstly, we need to know what is capital. What are we talking about when we are talking about capital? Now, when we are talking about capital, we're talking about finances or money basically that is needed to operate a farm business. Now remember, we are doing agricultural sciences, so everything we are talking about here will be about farm businesses, about agri enterprises, right? So now this capital can include anything needed to operate a farming enterprise, such as assets. But now, again, what are assets? That is another term that you need to know. Now, when we're talking about assets, we are talking about physical items that have monetary value and can be converted into cash if they are sold by the farmer, right? Then another important concept or important term that we'll be talking about is the cash flow. Now, what is the cash flow? When we are talking um, about the cash flow, this is basically the movement of money into and out of a business. So it's usually measured during a specified period of time. So it basically refers to the money that goes out of the business and also that comes into the business, right? It is mostly used to pay creditors, and as a result, the farmer must sell produce from the farm to bring in more cash. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the cash flow. Now, this cash is flowing, so it comes into the business and it goes out of the business, right? Then we've got budget. Now, that's the fourth term that you need to keep in mind. Now, when we are talking about the budget, right? So basically, a budget is a draft plan of how now you, as a farmer, intend to make money and also spend money, right, for a specific period of time. So it can be an annual budget or it can be roughly a monthly budget, right? So this basically will show the income, it will show the expenditure and also the profits for a specific period, right? So we've got different types of budgets, right? We're gonna get into that. So now, a budget is calculated or projected money plan, basically, of income. So that is the money that is coming in, right? The income is the money that is coming in, income, right? And also, when we're talking about expenditure, we're talking about the money that is going out, right? Okay, I think I have simplified that. Now, we've got three different types of capital. We've got a fixed capital. Now, these are fixed um, assets, right? So, a fixed capital involves fixed assets, right? They are fixed on durable assets that have a long lifespan, such as buildings, such as land, right? Such as fences, boreholes. Those are fixed assets, so they fall under fixed capital. Then we've got movable capital. So now Movable capital, and this is basically um, assets such as livestock, vehicles, machinery, and equipment. So these are basically like medium term assets, right? So these are capital goods that can be moved from one place to another. Obviously, you can move a tractor, you can move equipment, you can move your animals from one farm to another farm. Even when you're selling them, you can move them. So they are movable assets. So movable capital involves those assets, right? Then we've got working capital, right? So this involves basically short-term assets. So this capital, the working capital, is invested on short-term assets, like such as feed, fertilizer. We are talking about chemicals here. We're talking about salaries. We're talking about wages. We're talking about seeds. We're talking about fuel, right? So this can also be a floating capital, right? Can also be called a floating capital. And then we've got various ways of creating capital, right? And so now, how is this capital created? So it can be created from the farmer's own savings, right? So one can get this income from this capital from saving or even investing, right? The capital can also be created through production and local market. So now, what does this mean? This means that now, as a farmer, you can increase production so that you can accelerate the accumulation of income. So and now this is where you increase your production. Make sure you sell more so that you can make more money, right? Then we can also create capital through credit. Now, when we are talking about credit, this is basically a money that is borrowed, right? So, as a farmer, you can get goods or even services before you can pay for them, right? So you can use credit to borrow money from financial institutions. Now, but the difficult part or the disadvantage here is that you have to bring back that money with interest. Now you must pay interest on that borrowed money, right? And also, most of the time, as a farmer, you have to provide what we call a collateral for that credit, right? Then we've got grants, right? Now with grants, now this is the money that is being that is given to you as a farmer without having to pay it back, right? So now the difference between a loan and a grant is that with a loan, this is the money that you borrow and you are expected to pay that money back now with interest, right? Whereas now with the grant, now you are given this money and you're not expected to pay it back, right? But you just need to make sure that you use the money the way you said you're gonna use it, right? Then we've got sources of finance, right? So we've got long-term credit, we've got medium-term credit, and we've got short-term credit. Now, when we're talking about long-term credit, now this type of credit will usually take like a long time for you to repay. Now, it can be 10 years, it can be 35 years, it can be 20 years, right? Now, it is used for big capital goods such as land or big projects such as construction of buildings and dams. And we've got medium term, which is used mostly to buy movable capital, right? Like the medium term credit is used to buy movable capital. Now, this will usually be about 2 years to 10 years to repay, right? And then we've got the short term, which is used as a working capital. to buy goods for the production process, such as seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, wages, and salaries, and also to buy fuel. So that is a short term, right? Um, so now there are a number of ways in which you, as a farmer or as an agricultural entrepreneur, can source funding, right? Now, where can you source this type of funding, or where can you source credit, basically? So we've got land bank. So basically, land bank would offer long-term credit. So they offer loans or credit from 10 years to 35 years. Then we've got commercial banks, which most of the time offer short term loans from 0 to 2 years. Then we've got cooperatives, which offer medium term loans or credits, such as 2 years to 10 years. And the other way where you can source funding is through your own savings or even from insurance institutions, right? We've got problems that are associated with capital as a production factor. Now, what are these problems? Now, the scarcity of capital, okay, that can be another issue, right? So the lack of capital is a major factor in how the farming business run. Now, remember, in a farming business, you need money on day-to-day basis, right? So if you do not have enough capital as a farmer, now you may not necessarily afford, right, to have all the necessary equipment or tools or machinery that are needed to run that particular farming business, right? And also costs are also other problems. Cost is one of the problems that are associated with capital, right? Now, to buy or hire goods, right? Some goods that are needed in the farm is costly. So most of the things that are needed in the farm are costly, right? And now some of the farmers, they cannot afford these goods, right? So this now may then affect the production. Then depreciation. Obviously, now some capital goods have limited lifespan and are replaced over time. Now, this is because of wear and tear in a very short space of time. So, those are problems that are associated um, with capital. And also, some of the problems may include high interest rates and also high risk factors and also overcapitalization, right? Or even undercapitalization, right? Now, let's look at the financial management systems. So now, in order to farm successfully, you need to have a financial management system in place, right? Now, this is to keep accurate records of your financial transaction, right? So now, what does this include? This includes financial records, for example. Now, what is a financial record? Now, a financial record will show all the monies received and used in the farming enterprise, right? So an income statement can be used to show the income and expenses for a particular financial year. So as a farmer, you need to keep financial records, right? And now the records of assets as well in order to manage the capital of the farm business, right? So the financial records are to be kept in a cash analysis book. Now, there will be receipts, obviously, in that book, money in and payments, which are money out, right? The transaction should be recorded daily and and be billed at the end of the month. Now, you also need to keep proof of receipts, right? Now, these include bank deposits and also need to duplicate cash receipts. So basically, a cash book analysis can be used to prepare an income statement. The income statement is basically a summary of all income and expenditure for a specific period. So I've mentioned this, right? Now, from the income statement, it is possible to calculate the net cash income, which is a measure of profit. Now, how do you calculate this? So it's basically the net cash income is equal to the cash income minus the cash expenses, right? Then when we're talking about the profit, how do you calculate profit? So the profit will be income minus expenditures, right? So those fall under the financial records. And then we've got the farm assets, right? So as I have mentioned, that assets are things that you own that have a financial value. So these include tractors, they include buildings, they include land. Those are assets. The bakkies that are in the farm, those are assets. Now, assets are recorded in an inventory, which allows you to count your assets at a particular point in time. So, as a farmer, you need to have a list of all your assets because these items are of financial value. So your assets should always be worth more than the liabilities as they improve the net worth of the farming business, right? So at the end of the year, or at the beginning of a financial year, the farmer now should prepare a balance sheet. So the best document to use for keeping this inventory is basically a balance sheet, right? Now, this is the summary of all the liabilities and assets, right? On the balance sheet, assets and liabilities are grouped according to their lifespan, right? That is short term, medium term, and long term. So we have touched a bit on this. So now, when we're talking about fixed capital, so those are the long term, right? Now we are mentioning land, dams, building, kraal, fences, borehole, windmill. Then we've got movable capital, right, which includes livestock, machinery, equipment, and implements. Then we've got working or floating capital, which include spare parts, fertilizers, seeds, wages, as well as salaries or even fuel, right? So the balance sheet now will determine the net worth of the business. So the net worth of the business is basically assets minus liabilities, right? Now let's continue. Then we've got the farm budgets, right? So guys, once you get into farming, now this should not be treated as a hobby. If you're serious about farming, then you must know that it's a business, right? So that's why we are talking about farm budgets. Now, a farm is a business, right? And it aims to make profit. So, in order to make profit, then the farmer now needs a financial plan or a budget that lists all planned expenses and revenue for a particular period of time. Now, if we're talking about the budget, it helps us to predict now the expenses and revenues. It also helps us to measure the actual financial operation of the farm against the prediction, and it also helps us to identify the cost constraints, right? Now, that is the areas where farmers may have to cut costs to make profit. So in a farm, we've got what we call the enterprise budget and what we call the whole farm budget. So if you are running a farm, So these are mostly the budgets that you're going to use, right? Now, when we're talking about the enterprise budget, so there are two types of budgets, right, for farmers. Now, when we're talking about the enterprise budget, now this is the particular budget for one particular enterprise. So it's a budget for a single farming enterprise in that particular farm, right? For example, a maize production. But when we are talking about a whole farm budget, now this incorporates all of the budgets, right, in the farm. So it combines. Now, this type of a budget combines all the farm enterprises to show the net returns of the farm business, right? So, for example, if you have maize production in this farm, you've got livestock, and now even with this livestock, you will have your large stock and then your small stock, right? Even with your small stock, you may have fish, sheep enterprise or goat enterprise. So you separate them in a whole farm budget. But in a way, you are now combining all the enterprise. But an enterprise budget will focus on a single enterprise, whether it's a maize production or spinach production or sheep production. So it focuses on on one particular enterprise. Right. So here's an example of an enterprise budget. So this enterprise budget is for maize. So now these are all the estimated costs for our maize production, and these are all the estimated returns for our maize, right? So you're going to list all the items that are needed for you to produce maize, right? Then now let's come to the cash flow. Now, what is a cash flow? Now, a cash flow refers to the movement of money, as I have mentioned earlier, right? So the money that is coming in and the money that is going out of the business. So this is the movement of money through a business over time, right? So usually it is represented by receipts and payments made during a specific period. So now, as a farmer, you need to keep records of everything. I mean, guys, everything, right? So basically, the main components of the cash flow will include the opening balance. Now, this is cash available at the start of each month. The closing balance. Now, this is cash that is available at the end of each month. It will also include income. So, when we're talking about income, we're talking about the receipts of cash coming in or even from sales, right? Then we've got expenditure. That is another component of cash flow. Now, these are payments that have been made, such as wages, fuel, as well as other costs, basically, right? Now, if we look at this one, even though this I've cut this, it's not complete. It will be complete on the next slide because it's quite a long one. Not that long though, right? So now let's look at this cash flow statement, right? So we've got the money that is coming in, that is the income, right? We've got livestock sales, we've got insurance received in production loss, we've got sale of crops. So now this insurance that this money from the insurance, now remember, as farmers, it is important for us to have insurances because there is a lot that is unpredictable. So you can lose your products. They can be hail, and you can lose your products. They may steal your stock, your livestock. Then you need to claim from the insurance. So you need to insure your assets in the farm so that if the unfortunate happens, then you can you can claim from the insurance. Then you can also make money from the sales of crops. And now you record all these. Now this is income basically. Then we've got the cash outflow, which are expenses. Now, what did you this basically includes the money that you have used, that the money that is going out now of the business. So this can include the payment of casual labor, so, and also feed, seed plants, pesticides, and herbicides, transport, and also other fixed costs, right? Then now you will have other cash outflows, right? That will maybe include the interest, the rent, hired management, capital purchases, and all that. Then you add that all together. Then you look now, okay, now closing cash balance. How much do you have at the end of the month? Does it make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. So now, when we look at the main aspects of a cash flow budget statement, right? So it should basically summarize the projection of income and expenditure for each specific month. Now, this helps you as a farmer to identify a month or even months where there will be fewer expenses to pay, and where and now you will have more money in these months. In these months, for instance, you can see the difference in these 3 months, right? Now it's question time. It's question time. We are done with all the topics I wanted us to discuss. Now it's time to test ourselves, right? So now I've got here some questions. Question one. I've got question two, then question three and four. So I want you to take your time to do this. Make sure you have a pen and paper. Make sure you are honest to yourself when you are answering these. Yes, some of the answers we're gonna do together, but some we're not. So I want you to be honest to yourself so that you can be able to answer these truthfully. Okay, let's look at the multiple choice. The first question, these are short questions. Um, occurs when too much capital is invested in a farming enterprise in relation to the available land or labor. So we've got four options there: overcapitalization, farm capitalization, undercapitalization, and natural capitalization. So now let's reread the question. Now it occurs when too much capital. I think the answer is obviously there. So the answer is A, overcapitalization. Number two, money borrowed from a bank for a period of 50 years to buy land. Okay, we've talked about long-term capital, we've talked about short-term capital, medium-term capital, and working capital. So now we are saying this money is borrowed from a bank. We've done this. The answer there is obvious. Again, it's A, it's a long-term credit, right? An example of fixed capital is A, feed, B, livestock, C, water, D, a shed, right? Okay, again. So remember we said we've got movable capital, we've got fixed capital, working capital. Okay, so now, drum rolls. Okay, the answer there is D. A fixed capital in those things is D, a shed, right? Then 1.4, a farmer can decrease the risk of his income by dash dash the entire farming enterprise. Right. So the options we have there: one, or they can decrease the risk of his income, right? A, insuring, B, selling, C, pawning, D, and repairing. So a farmer can decrease the risk of his income by obviously insuring the entire farming enterprise, right? We've just talked about that. 1.5. A or N dash dash is a budget drawn up by the farmer for the operation of the farm for a specific period of time. So we talked about enterprise budget, we talked about whole farm budget, we talked about a cash flow, farm asset records. Okay, fine. Now, this particular budget is drawn up by the farmer for the operation of the farm, right? So A, is it cash flow? I don't think so. Is it a farm asset record? Balance sheet, maybe? Nope. C, is it an enterprise budget? I don't think so, but I think it's the whole farm budget. Right. Okay, tell me what you think, B. Then let's move to the second question. Right? Now, this is one word. Supply one word or term for each of the following descriptions. So on your paper, just write only the term or just say the term if you're not writing down. So the physical items of economic value, which could be converted into cash if they were sold by the farmer. What are these? Okay, so these are assets. Money that comes into and goes out of the farmer's bank account. What is this? Now, this refers to the cash flow, right? Then we've got calculations or predictions of income and expenditure. This refers to the budget. Now, take your time for the next one. Right? The capital that is used to pay wages, to buy livestock, seed, and fertilizers. What is that? So this is the working capital. A type of capital that does not change when goods are produced. What is this? Type of capital that does not change when goods are produced. This is the fixed capital. A sum of money provided for a specific purpose, usually by the government. So this is the type of money that you're not going to pay back. Now I'm giving you the hint. Because of it, obviously, if you're given by the government, you're not going to pay it back. So this is the grant, right? A source of capital resulting from farming profits that have been allowed to accumulate in a bank. Source of capital resulting from farming profits that have been allowed to accumulate in a bank. So these are your own capital or savings. So the profit is yours. Remember, the farming profits are yours. So this is your own money, right? Okay. Now let's continue. The next ones. A possible buyer is interested in buying a farm. Now indicate, so these are long questions. Indicate the following with regard to his transaction, right? The type and duration of the credit needed to buy this farm. So I think I'm going to give you this one. So this, answer it on your own. All these questions, you're going to answer them on your own. Then, if you have any questions, so you're going to pause from here. If you have any questions or you want the answers, and then you can comment on the section below, then I can give you the answers. Right? But try to be honest to yourself, refer to the session that we've had, answer honestly and truthfully, then we can have that. Or maybe let me give you the first one. No, let me not. Let me not. Answer truthfully. Then, if you are having any difficulties, just let me know on the comment section below. So just pause here, try to copy the questions down, or you take a screenshot, then you answer these questions, and then let me know if you find this useful. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with your friends, your family, and everyone you know basically needs this. New farmers, people who have interest in agriculture. So please do share with them, share with everyone. This is not only for the grade 12 learners, but this is basically for everyone, and we are all here to learn. So if there's anything else that you would like me to share, or anything that you would like to share with other people through this platform, then please let me know. And yeah, please let me know in the comment section below what you think. Is this video helpful? Is this lesson helpful? If you find it helpful, please share with other people. Otherwise, from me, Umadlamini, thank you so much, guys. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you. Bye.